Okay, a lot of people have been asking questions about this one, so I thought I'd give a couple of detailed examples here about how to deal with a Venn diagram problem where you're trying to solve the Venn diagram, all of the different sectors, when you don't know the middle or the intersection. So, in this video, we'll explain what the challenges really are, so you can avoid any pitfalls when you don't know how many elements are in an intersection. I will model how to solve a 2-set problem, and I will model how to solve a 3-set problem. Let's get to it. 2-set Venn diagram, unknown middle. So we'll say there are 20 people in a classroom. Active read, that is the total number of people in the classroom. 14 have brown hair, B. And 11 have brown eyes, E. How many people have brown hair and brown eyes? We are looking for the union of B and E, or specifically the number of people in this union. The major pitfall here people like to go into is just dumping the numbers 14 and 11 into here. That doesn't work, and I'll explain why here. Just going to get that eraser out. It's best to really start from the middle and work our way out. Here's why. We're looking for the union, which is in the middle here. That's our X value. Now this 14 right here isn't just for this sector, it's for this sector and this sector. It's for everything that is in this circle. So we can't just say there's 14 people here, because that would mean there's nobody in here. What we have to do is recognize that this plus this gives us 14. Another way of looking at that is 14 minus whatever's in this sector is what is in this sector here. This is how many people have only brown hair. And we do much the same thing for E over here. This right here is not 11. This and this adds up to 11, because when we're dealing with brown eyes, we're dealing with this whole circle here. So really this sector that is people that have brown eyes but do not have brown hair. They have only brown eyes. That is 11, the total number of people in this whole circle, minus X, the people that have both. Why are we building all of these expressions? That seems like a lot of work. There is a reason that we need all of these expressions in terms of X. There are ways of doing this a bit differently, guessing and checking or other methods. Those methods stop working, at least stop working very easily once you add a third circle to a Venn diagram, once you add a third set. So it's important to understand how to do this algebraically. What we really get here is, since we have the total, we can build an equation now that we've built these expressions. The people that have only brown hair, 14 minus X, plus the people that have both brown hair and brown eyes, X, plus the people that have only brown eyes must be equal to the total number of people in the classroom. That accounts for everybody. Now, this looks complicated. It's not that bad, though. It's really not. Let's go to the algebra and explain why. got this expression built. I'm just going to rearrange everything so I've got all of my constants and all of my variables next to each other just to make this a bit easier. 14 plus 11, those are my constants here and here. And then I've got my variables kicking around. Now that we have that organized, we haven't really done anything other than change the order, but we can see right away here, minus 1x plus 1x, those cancel each other out. That's 0. That's gone. Then we can just add up our 14 and our 11. Whoops. Leaving us with 25 minus x equals 20. I can now solve for my x. I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides because we're dealing with an equation here. That's gone now. Got negative x is equal to negative 5. Divide by negative 1. X is equal to 5. Let's bring that back now to our diagram. Let's see if that checks out. We can always double check this. I haven't used red yet. Let's use red. So if x is equal to 5, then this must be 14 minus 5, which is actually 9. And this would be 11 minus 5, which is actually 6. And so now we have our actual numbers of people in all of these sectors. We take a look. 9 plus 5 gives us 14 people with brown hair. 9 people have only brown hair. 5 people have both brown hair and brown eyes. And then we have 6 people with just brown eyes. 5 plus 6 gives us our 11. Once again, that active read is important because we need to make sure what we're trying to really find, we want the both. How many people have both brown hair and brown eyes? That's the middle sector. When you're solving a Venn diagram, you have to make sure you remember exactly what you're solving for, because in this case we are solving for this middle sector, but that's not always the case in every question. So make sure we go back to what we are actually being asked. How many people have brown hair and brown eyes? 5. So that's with 2 sets, 2 circles in a Venn diagram. There are ways of doing that without getting into the algebra method, but it's good to understand the mechanics of it for when you get into a more complex problem. Just to reiterate, our steps here. We did an active read. If you're doing a question like this on the computer online, and you can't highlight as easily, but you can still write things down. Do that. Start from the middle. We have our x in the middle. Then we have to build expressions with that variable x. I guess you don't have to use x. You could use an n or an a or something if you wanted. Hashtag freedom. Then from there we can build an equation to actually solve. That's where we take all of the sectors and we can add them up to give us the total. Then we solve. You have the ability to check your work and make sure you publish the actual answer that they're looking for. We'll come back and review these steps again. Looks like a lot of steps, but that's spelling mistake. That breaks it down fairly clearly. Now for a 3-set problem. This is similar to the workbook on page 33. And if you're looking for a practice question like this, I almost forgot. Take a look at page 23. There's a very similar problem to that in the workbook, page 23. Class example 6, I believe it is. This is the same process for a 3-set problem, but it gets a bit more complex because we have more sectors to deal with. Same process. In this problem, get the none out of the way first. We didn't have that in the previous problem. Not all problems will have people that have watched none of these films in this particular example, or any elements that belong to none of those groups, but this one does. I asked 50 people which of the 3 greatest movies of all time they watched. So we're dealing with 50 people, 3 movies, so we have a 3-set Venn diagram, greatest movies of all time. We want to know how many people have seen only Predator, denoted by our P. So this is our Venn diagram here that we're looking for. Pay attention to this when you're publishing your answer in the future. Okay, we've got 24 people had seen Predator, not nearly high enough. Now think, oh, well, there's my answer. We're asking for only Predator. Remember. So the only Predator here, and this is going back to that pitfall. It's not quite that easy as just grabbing that number in this case. Only Predator is this. This sector here is what we're really looking for. Because that means they've seen Predator, but they have not seen Aliens and Terminator. So this, seen Predator, that would be this whole circle here. This is going to get messy in a hurry. I'll probably erase this right after. We don't want this whole circle. We want just this piece highlighted in yellow that stands for only Predator. Great film. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out. Okay, 32 had seen Terminator, 29 had seen Aliens. Terminator's not bad there. You could say Terminator 2, but Terminator 1's a classic. It started it all. 14 had seen Predator and Terminator. 14 had seen Predator and Aliens. 18 had seen Aliens and Terminator. And 3 had seen none of these films, which is very sad. If you get a chance, you should watch at least one of them. What I mean by getting the none out of the way, this 3 isn't included inside of any of these sectors. It's out here, it's still in the universal set. We still talk to these 3 people, but they haven't seen any of the films. So let's just leave that guy out there. Then we work from the middle out. We don't know how many people have seen all 3 of these films. That's our X. From here, we can start finding these sectors here. We can't use this stuff yet, but we can use these values. 14 people had seen Predator and Terminator. So we've got Predator, we've got Terminator. That's this sector right here. 14 had seen Predator and Terminator. Okay, just put a 14 here. Not quite. Predator and Terminator is this whole sector here. It's where these 2 circles overlap. So once again, this is 14 minus X, because the 14 accounts for this sector here as well as the middle. (14) had seen Predator and Aliens. That's the same deal here. 14 minus X, because we're talking about this sector in here. And 18 had seen Aliens and Terminator. Not bad. So there we go. We've gotten those dealt with. Very similar to the 2-set Venn diagram previous. Same idea. So on we go now To find only p, how would we go about doing that? Well, only p, like we talked about, is right here. This is where things get a bit busier, get a bit trickier. So here we want to put down 24. But once again, it's not that simple because that 24 accounts for this sector, this sector, this sector, and this sector. Here is where we start getting the most complicated algebra here, really. It's a bit of a pain in the butt with some subtraction going on. Now, to demonstrate, got the 24 here. Really, this would be 24, but we've already counted this, so we'd have to subtract our 14 minus x. It's already counting this, so we'd have to subtract our x, and it's already counting this. Why are we subtracting once again? 24 accounts for the entire circle here. So if we're trying to find just this piece of it in here, we have to subtract out this, this, and this from the total of 24. So we're dealing with subtraction in brackets and subtracting expressions. This is where the algebra gets the most dicey. I like to think of this as distributing this negative sign in. Some people like writing a little -1 here. But we've got brackets and subtraction, so we have to flip the signs effectively inside these brackets. We have 24 minus 14 plus x minus x minus 14 plus x. Watch out for those sign changes there. Let's group the like terms together. We have our constants, 24 minus 14 minus 14. Then our x's plus x minus x plus x. Now we can see that once again, two of those x's are going to cancel themselves out. (24 minus 14 is 10, minus 14 is -4 plus x. I don't like writing it like that. I like writing it this way, which works just the same. So here, we don't have 24. That's the whole thing. This is actually x minus 4. So we have an expression for the number of people that have seen only predator, but we don't know what x is yet. So guess what? We get to do the same thing for this and this. You thought we'd have a bit of a shortcut here. Not at all. With a question like this, it's best to resign yourself to using maybe even a full sheet of paper, depending how big your writing is. Now let's find only t. Same idea. Okay, how many people had seen Terminator? 32. Not bad. Not bad. So we have 32 in this case. Once again, that's the entire circle is 32. We are looking for just only Terminator, so we have to subtract out these. So once again, subtract the 14 minus x, subtract the x, subtract 18 minus x. Okay. Distribute that negative sign through to flip the signs because we're dealing with subtraction. Let's write them all in order. And now we cancel and group our like terms. It is late enough in the day that I'm just going to double check this on my calculator because I'm worried my brain is playing tricks on me. When you're doing a more complex problem, more of your brain is focused on solving the problem at hand, it's a lot easier to make simple math errors you normally wouldn't make. So it's okay to let your calculator take a bit of weight in that situation. This gives us 0. 0 plus x, which is just x. Oh, right on, that's easy. Finally, let's find out who's watched Only Aliens. I haven't seen that in a while. I might watch that again. 29 had seen Aliens. Okay, same thing. 29, if that's all 4 of these sectors here, so we have to subtract out the 14 minus x, minus the x, minus the 18, minus x. Ooh, I'm playing, that's bad habit. Use your little visual cues. Take your time. Don't rush just because, well, this part of the question's kind of boring. That's how mistakes happen. And let's group them all in order. -3 plus x. Double check that on the calculator. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So that'll be x minus 3. Okay. Now, having gone through all of that work, finally we can solve for x. What I do off the hop here, once again, talking about why did we deal with this guy first? Some people like just taking this total of 50 people. Let's just get those 3 that haven't watched any of these amazing films. If you get a chance, watch these films. 47. That's the number that's inside all of this stuff. There's 47 people locked away in here. We can finally build an equation with this now. This 47 people, we have to find them, we have to add all of these sectors together. So this is going to look like a bit of a Frankenstein monster, but that's okay. It gets better in a hurry. That's done. That one's 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 done. I would strongly recommend making some sort of mark or check or something to make sure you don't miss one of these, because if you miss one of these, it's game over, man. Game over. And it's a heartbreaker because you've probably done a whole bunch of really good work only to have it lost there. So now this looks ugly, but it's not so bad. Let's take a look at our x's here. Color code this a bit. So we've got x minus x. Oh, that cancels out. Plus x minus x. Oh, that cancels out. Plus x minus x. Oh, that cancels out. Plus x. Oh, okay. 1x there. Look at that. And once again, it's late enough in the day. Just going to add all of that up in the old calculatrice here. 39. And we now have our equation. 47 equals x plus 39. That's an easy one to solve. All of this gets condensed down into this and this just by canceling and grouping like terms. And our answer is 8 equals x. Perfect. We're done. The answer is x equals 8. We're finished. No, you are not. That's another pitfall with a long problem like this. X is equal to 8. I'll do this in a different color actually so it's easier to see. Let's use blue. So we got x is equal to 8. X is equal to 8. 18 minus 8 is 10. 14 minus 8 is 6. 8 minus 3 is 5. 8 minus 4 is 4. What were we trying to find again? Right. Only predator. That is this square here. So our final answer for the people that have seen Predator but not any of these other movies is 4 out of this classroom or this group or survey I took of 50 different people. Predator, some might argue to be the greatest movie of all time. Like me, I would argue that. Well, I'll give it a watch. If you're going to watch only one of them, be one of these 4 people who only watched Predator. Moving on. In summary, the active read is important. That diagram, making a nice big diagram so you don't miss anything. Like back here when I'm checking this stuff off, it's a lot easier to write this big long monster of a thing if you have a big enough diagram to read. Deal with what's on the outside of all circles, out of all the circles, if there are any values out there, if there are any elements outside of everything. What I mean by that is this guy out here, got it calculated here, I dealt with him first just to get him out of the way, because we don't have to worry about all of these things here. You don't have to. You could include it with all of this, but that's complicated. Instead of dealing with 50 people, we're really dealing with the 47 that are actually inside one of these sets. That's where that 47 comes from. Then you have to work your way from the middle out. Just jumping back. So we found, or made our value in the middle, the intersection of all 3 of these sets, x. And then we worked into these sectors, those who had seen 2 of these films, and then, oops, that disappeared unfortunately, we worked our algebra to find the sectors of people who had seen only 1 film. Then once we had all of those expressions built, so you built in, you have to simplify those expressions, those x's cancel out, you can group your constants. Then you can build an equation to solve for x. That equation looks like a mess, but you can always simplify it down. Same goes for your expressions. It looks complicated, but it's not so bad. Double check what you have been asked. We weren't looking for the middle sector here. We were looking for this sector over here. We had to fill out the whole bloody thing pretty much to find it, but we did. So I hope this little demo was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Or it might not be me being your instructor. You get the point. You can ask if there are any questions. Happy studying.